Thanks to Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. You can follow him on Twitter at Insure Champlin. That's Insure with an I, and if you know how to spell Champlin, you're from Minnesota. Tony handles my insurance. He handles Michael Russo's insurance. We've been working with him for a long time now. Check him out, Hoaglund.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoaglund. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
So I was been thinking lately too with what happened with Peter Torelli and Edmonton and what's going on up there north of the border. Why do some teams that like Chicago and Washington get it right with their superstar players? But I mean, obviously with the Wild, I mean the famous phrase is, maybe it's time to rebuild and get really good draft picks, which is obviously good. But isn't it amazing and why do some teams like Edmonton, Arizona, other teams struggle when they get these elite players?
You still have to build that's the thing about rebuilding, is that you're not rebuilding through one player, and that's what Wild fans have to understand, is that if you still have a gazillion other warts, just getting Jack Hughes isn't going to turn this team into a superstar. Let me promise you that in 2020, if Kirill Kaprizov comes here and they don't fix other issues that they have here, that Kirill Kaprizov's not going to be the savior that's going to bring a cup down Nicolette Mall here. Edmonton can't get out of its own way. Now, these other teams, I will say, have had multiple things that have happened right. Well, Pittsburgh wins the Crosby lottery, but they also were crappy another year and got Malkin, and then they also were able to get the number one overall pick traded to them from Florida from Michael Samuelson. I mean, so they were able to draft Fleury. So they got themselves the two cornerstone centers and a cornerstone goaltender, and they go out, and the rest is history, win cups starting in 2009. Same thing in Chicago. They multiple poor years. They get Patrick Kane, but then they get Jonathan Toews, and it took years and years and years and years of losing before they finally got it right. Colorado did it a strange way where they would be great, then atrocious on the right year, great, then atrocious. So they just would make the playoffs, would be absolutely awful, and they'd get McKinnon and Landeskog and Duchesne and so on and so on. But in between, they were making the playoffs. So there's multiple ways you do it. In terms of Edmonton, they've just made, the Yakubov pick was a garbage pick, and there's a perfect example of also you have to be an awful team in the right year. And that year, everybody said that Yakubov was going to be the next Ovechkin. Well, he was an absolute dog, and so they got unlucky there. But then they've, Chiarelli in particular, as you mentioned, has made just awful trades. He trades Taylor Hall, who turns out to be the MVP of the league last year, for Adam Larson. Well, come on. I mean, that is just not a good trade. They go and trade Strome for Spooner, and then put Spooner on waivers, and then I mean, it was just a gazillion things that he's absolutely messed up there. So I think that was a trade. But the reality is that, it was Eberle for Strome, and then he traded Strome for Peru. Yeah. So he's made bad moves, and he took as somebody I saw wrote recently, an idiot-proof team, and became an idiot with it. And now he's probably all of a sudden he's a guy that's traded Taylor Hall, he's traded Tyler Seguin, he's traded Phil Kessel, he's traded. It's pretty funny. You look at all the studs that he's traded. So.
It's amazing that team won the cup in Boston when he was there.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. So. That's the one thing that he's going to have going for him for a long time. But man, I don't know if he'll get another GM job. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was
He'll probably be hired by Chuck Fletcher since they're buddies in some capacity. He'll probably. The next thing we'll see, just like he wanted to do a Shiro here, but the Pittsburgh Penguins wouldn't let him. But he might hire Chiarelli as an advisor there.
Advisor. And I was with your Q&A with Fenton, that's why it was cautionary tale to me too, because it's if you look at trading Granlund, I understand the merits behind that. What do you kind of look for? I mean, do you look for a comparable forward, or I was just I guess, what do you kind of look for if you go down that road?
Well, it's funny. I mean, with
thanks.
I get the impression that he would love to rebuild this thing. I don't think he loves the team. It's like Mary O'Neill tweeted the other day, like, listen to Russo lately has her all upset. But the reality is, I think it's very clear that he does not want to overpay Granlund to keep him. And Granlund's going to command 7.5, 8, 9. Before, by the way, he was going to ask for like 10. I don't know if he still has those type of cojones. But would you pay Mikhail Granlund $8.5 million? If you did, you're in deep trouble. You better he better just magically become a superstar.
What if Mary makes up the difference?
Yeah, that could possibly happen. But I mean, but that doesn't. It's paying him's not the issue. It's then fitting him in the cap. And
right.
Even if Mary had the wherewithal to pay it, it still hurts the team in the long run. So that's the type of thing. I just think it's obvious right now that at some point he's going to look at moving him. And I do hear from talking to GMs that he can be had. I don't know if you'd want to trade him now, because then to me you are probably throwing the season away. But at some point here they're going to have to talk contract with him, whether that is this summer or into next year, and it's absolutely a huge issue right now. These moves that he's made the last week or two, I just don't get. I don't get it. I think he was so excited that somebody was interested in Nino after trying to trade him for 8 months that he just bit hard on it, and I think this one. He didn't look at the repercussions of this, and now you're going to be stuck with this dog for 3 years here. And that's just reality. Aberg, I thought his best game the other night was against Colorado, but he's not going to be he will drive Boudreau or the coach nuts the way that he did Randy Carlyle. Watching him in person just for the 2 games I did, I see why they all of a sudden started. His competition factor and his play away from the puck are not up to par where you could afford to play him every night with a Zach Parise. And the Potato one the other day, everybody is just assuming, because it makes sense, that there's another trade in the offing here. Everything I am told by people around the league is that there's not. I think that he just saw that a player that he liked was suddenly on waivers, and he just made the move. And where maybe in that situation you can't make the moves because you just got to accept, well, I traded for Brad Hunt 2 days before, and now we got too many defensemen. And if all of a sudden they come back with 8D in a couple days, you've now taken the team in for just to add a depth defenseman that doesn't play any special teams in Nashville, by the way. I mean, Potato didn't play PK or power play. I don't get the move. Now all of a sudden just to add that player, if you don't put Prosser on waivers, or if you don't put Hunt on waivers, or even, I mean, it would make no sense, but even put Potato on waivers, you're now taking the team and you're saying if you're playing Eric Fair this weekend, that you've got to play JT Brown or Matt Hendricks. Well, I know that fans here are not in love with Joel Eriksson Ek or Luke Cunnin right now and think that they should be in the minors to develop, but their fourth line these last couple of games were really good. And Eriksson Ek was great on the penalty kill. And now all of a sudden you're taking Bruce and you're forcing him to change the lineup when you've won 4 of your last 5 and 3 in a row. I mean, I just don't get the move here. And so it just doesn't make sense.
Is that where maybe cap space is almost viewed as an asset in that deal? That the fact, I know it's only $1.5 million, but it's still $1.5 million cap space. Maybe you've used that almost as big an asset as getting whatever you can out of Victor Rask. And
well,
we have to see what he does here, but yeah.
But I mean, well, that's why they didn't get a pick back for it. Is that you're right? I mean, I guarantee you the Wild wanted a pick, and then Don Waddell countered with, "Look, we're giving your guys are saving a bunch of money with this type of move." And that that is quote unquote an asset. But if Victor Rask is going to make your team worse, it's not a smart decision. And maybe the goal is if he's bad, it'll be a cheap buyout. It'll be a cheap buyout forever. He would be on their cap for 6 years or something. But maybe that's what they're thinking as well, is that it'd be a much cheaper buyout than Nino. But right now that third line, it's amazing that they've won these last 3 games. Because I watched the shifts again the other night, and that Parise, Rask, Aberg line had one good shift in the entire game. One in the entire Colorado game. And yet Parise makes the play that wins them that game. Why? Because he decided not to come off the ice for a very specific reason. And you watch Zach right now, every shift, I can guarantee you this is why. I mean, he is playing minute shifts every game and overlapping his shifts with the next line. And I know Zach, he'll never admit it. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I know why he's doing it, So
that's awesome. Psychoanalyzing Zach Parise here on the show.
So we can get on a line that's going to play with pace and get shifts with different players at even strength.
All of our regulars are eating dinner here, as they usually do during these shows. I want to remind you that Dulono's downtown Minneapolis now has a lunch buffet that includes fried chicken every day for $12.99 to get the full buffet with fried chicken. They also have 2 happy hour specials every day, 3 to 7 p.m. and 9 to 11 p.m., 7 days a week. That's $3 wells, $3 domestics, $3 house wines, $5 craft and imported beers, and discount appetizers. So check that out.
2 questions.
Yep.
What's the update on the Alex Stalock extension? We all love him.
Yep.
Local guy, plays for the minimum.
Yeah.
Actually handles the puck.
Yep.
Well.
Yeah.
Other than, Dubnyk.
Yep.
So, your feedback there.
It's close. It'll happen here in the next little bit.
I hope we sign him.
Yep.
And then the second was the Greenway story, I think yesterday or today came out. And then the Star and Trib ran a Greenway story a couple days ago or something.
Right.
I know it must be competitive coming up with content sometimes.
Right.
Is it tough to keep some of the ideas that you do for the Athletic away from maybe other competing media organizations, which I won't mention?
Yeah. Well, the 2 stories were very different. Sarah did a personality profile where she went to hang out with at an apartment and things like this. This was more of a hockey story that we've been planning for a while. So it was 2 very different stories, totally coincidental. Sarah, I think, has been working on that story for a long time. And the Greenway one just was something that popped in our head last week because all of a sudden he's getting to these soft spots in the slot where he's roofing these pucks and just, we're watching him. And that's why, for Sarah, it turned out to be a really cool, the timing worked out perfectly where she was writing this anyway. And now all of a sudden, look at him. He's playing his best hockey as well. So it worked out perfectly there. And then from us, we decided to do this because we're watching him play Greenway, and every single night, even the games I was watching on TV from Costa Rica last week, he's finding these soft spots in the slot, and they're finding the puck, and he's just playing so well. So that was one where I just, where Evan, one of our analytics writers, who does really good kind of video breakdowns, and that's why it happened. But yeah, Jim will tell you from a beat writer perspective, especially in today's kind of day and age where we all get the same canned quotes after the game and we're shuttled around the room like livestock. You're just from every huddle to every huddle, and you don't have as good a chance unless it's an off day of getting guys alone. It's very hard to get different stories. So with the Athletic, in particular, it's cool because I have time to work on awesome stuff. So the other night, I was sort of, with Eric Stahl, I wanted to talk to him alone after the game, so I just kind of waited because I wasn't on a crazy deadline. Remember, that game started at 8:30 Central Time. So Sarah's running around the locker room with her head cut off because she's got essentially email quotes to the Strib. And I was able, and I had no stress in the world because I'm just sitting there. So when she's running around, I was able to just go wait out Stahl. So that's just kind of the difference between the 2 outlets right now. And then obviously there's a finite amount of space that she has to fill and things like that. So that last week was totally coincidental, and it was 2 very different, same subject, but 2 very different stories. So yeah.
Good question. Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's go to some Twitter questions. My question for you, though, is what's wrong with McKinnon and what's wrong with the Avalanche? It's like they always have something weird happening there.
They're the one thing I will say is that you watch that team now, and this is where Anthony was right. They are a one-line team. I thought that Soderberg, Kerfoot, Yost was going to turn them into a deeper team this year. Kerfoot's really had a mediocre year. Soderberg's their only other really good player, and Yost can't even get up to the NHL right now. So they are they're not easy to check because those guys are still superstars. But the other night was a great example of where Mikko Koivu was valuable. They couldn't get away from Mikko, and Mikko drove McKinnon crazy that game. The only time that McKinnon and Rantanen and Landeskog were even noticeable was when they were on the power play or Landeskog was acting like an idiot. Those were the only times you even noticed them. It was just a mediocre game by McKinnon and Rantanen that night. And if they have that, they're dead. And there again, when you have a one-line team, you have to go into that game and you throw your big guns at them. So Suter and Spurgeon were outstanding that game, and the fact that the Wild were able to blow them out that night with